I saw Miss Shoemate, I believe, there.
Yes.
Is Kyle Weiss here?
I am.
All right, I saw that there were a number of contempt motions brought, and I think they're set for May 3rd. And so we'll handle those issues on May 3rd. Today is to look at how the supervised visits are going and then to address child support. Why don't I go to Ms. Fellows to see what information she has, and then I'll hear from the parties.
Yes, Your Honor. My information is that the supervised visits have not started. The father did reach out to me to ask some questions about supervised visits. He did look into the community. He actually got quite a large spreadsheet of different agencies that are in his area in the Clackamas, Oregon. And he had found one. I looked at the website, looked really good and appropriate. He gave the information to mom. Apparently mom has not responded. I did try to reach out to mom myself via email, just saying, you know, hey, I heard that there was supervised visitation possibly being set up. What's going on? Have not heard from her. So at this point in time, I don't think that there's been any visits.
All right, let me hear from Mr. Weiss next. Any comment on these visits?
Yes. To update also Beth on this, I received a text message and an email from the owner of that place, and she said she did reach out to mom. Mom responded, and I believe her quote was, "I can't afford that." And that is, I believe, the reason why supervised visits have not happened yet. I have that in email and text, and I will send that to you, Beth.
All right, Ms. Shoemate, any comment?
That is what I said. I can't afford it at the moment.
I would also like to say I did look at in other places, and the that rate seems to be pretty similar for the rest of them. There's not much of a big difference on that rate per hour for the supervised visits.
Ms. Fellows, you're still putting your report together?
Yes, I have been wanting to see if the supervised visits were going to happen. I do have additional information that solidifies that supervised visits are appropriate, that the concerns about Vincent Taylor are still there. And I do have 3 different police reports that actually the father was able to furnish. He did file with the court as well. And they each have mom saying that Vincent is her boyfriend. These were dated 3 different times, 3 different police reports in mid-February. Same time when we had court, and she said that they were moving slowly, that they weren't together, they weren't boyfriend, girlfriend, and same type of thing that she put in her declaration. So there are indeed concerns that Vincent Taylor is a significant part of her life. And there's cause for concern for Taylor being around mom at this point in time, unless it's supervised visits.
Well, there's a concern about him being around the children.
Yes.
All right. As to the supervised visits, I'm not going to make any changes. I hope at some point Ms. Shoemate can afford it. But based on what I've heard today, I'm not going to make any changes, and I'm going to wait for the guardian ad litem report probably before I make any changes again. The next
I do have a question. Please. Is it possible to have phone calls if he's in the room?
Say that one more time, please.
Is it possible to have phone calls if he's in the room?
He meaning Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss, do you have a thought on that?
I would like to check in with Beth on that matter. If she's okay with that, then I would be okay. If there's a reason not to, I would like to speak with her about it first.
At this point in time, I don't think that there is a cause for concern as long as it is just the mother and the father is able to listen in on the phone call.
If that's satisfactory, why don't we start out with one phone call a week between now and May 3rd? And we're going to be back here on May 3rd on a number of issues. And one of them will also be whether the phone calls should be expanded to more than one. And just to put perimeters on that, the call should only deal with a conversation with the child and not discuss any other issues between the parties. Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's go to child support. And so, Mr. Weiss, I want to talk to you a moment. In your worksheets, you list Ms. Shoemate's income as gross income as $3,466 a month, and you're calling that imputed income.
I believe it should be 2,400, not 3,400.
Okay. Okay. It says 3,000 on your worksheet, but I understand if you intended that to be 2, that is more in line with the information I found. And then the amount you're asking for at this point on the child support order is $309.95.
Correct.
Okay. And where did you get that number?
I based that off of full-time minimum wage, 40 hours a week in the state of Washington versus my income.
Ms. Shoemate, have you looked at the proposed child support orders?
I have, and that's not what I make. I just started this new job, which I only make 16 an hour.
How many hours do you work?
I'm about 28 roughly.
So actually looking at a financial statement, Ms. Shoemate, that you provided, I believe you entered your income as $2,432 a month.
I was working a different job. I just started a new one.
Okay.
And I can do those paperwork and send in my pay stubs that I got yesterday.
Am I able to make a statement off that?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and then I'll see how I want to handle this. Go ahead, Mr. Weiss.
28 hours a week is underemployed. There's no reason why she should not be working 40 hours a week. She doesn't go to school. She doesn't take care of her kids. She doesn't have custody of her kids. So she's not sitting at home taking care of them. She should be working 40 hours a week. Every job she gets is always under 40 hours. It's always part-time. There's no reason why she can't be working 40 hours a week.
Your Honor, I just got done with school and I have to take my state exams before I can get fully paid and get more hours.
All right. I think I want to see Ms. Shoemate's wage statement to see what her hourly rate is. And if I impute it, we typically impute at 32 hours a week. So that potentially could increase the amount that we factor for child support a little bit more than what she's making. But I want to confirm that she's making $16 an hour. So Ms. Shoemate, what I'd like you to do is file your recent wage statement with the court. And we will again take up child support on May 2nd, but I'm probably going to make the payment retroactive to April because we're really here today to decide what child support is, but now it turns out I need additional information. So I just want you to be aware of that. So if we could I'll be back here on May 3rd. We'll have a number of things to discuss, and we'll set temporary child support at that time. Okay. All right. All right. Next is Heidi Entler and Christopher Entler.
Yeah.
See Mr. Entler and Ms. Turnbull. And is Heidi Entler here?
I'm here.
All right, good. All right, I think I'm here to check in as to whether the parties have met with the guardian ad litem and where we're at on that report. Ms. Turnbull?
Yes, so both parties have returned their paperwork, and I have met with Heidi. I have an interview scheduled with Christopher, and so that's in process. I have a couple questions for the court. One is, I would like to clarify payment because it's a little bit unclear to me in the order appointing. And the second is, I have a couple of concerns about Mr. Entler's reporting and some of the research I've done and the collateral resources about his substance abuse. And I would request that Mr. Entler do a hair follicle test.
So the fee issue, the intent here was Fishner, who is Heidi Entler, I've indicated would do private pay at your regular rate. And I see. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to take that. I've stated that wrong. Mr. Entler will pay 50% of what your regular rate would be. And for Miss Entler, because of her income, the county will pay, but I put 50% of the county as an amount before you would be required to come and ask for additional funds.
Okay. Okay, so I have not received any payment from Mr. Entler.
So, my understanding, he's not in the same financial position as Ms. Entler, but if he wanted to file a financial statement to have his portion paid by the county, he could do that, and I would consider it.
Okay.
Okay. And then you're asking for a hair follicle from Mr. Entler?
Yes.
And the reason for that, could you just give me briefly what your concerns are?
Well, he's reporting on his initial paperwork that he's never used drugs or alcohol. And Ms. Entler has a history of drug abuse and is reporting that she and Mr. Entler used drugs together throughout their marriage and their relationship preceding. And then I have another collateral witness who lived with Mr. Entler, who reports concerning sleep habits and behavior that she's concerned that it would match up with methamphetamine use in terms of irregular sleep patterns.
Okay.
And Ms. Entler is concerned that Mr. Entler, she doesn't witness him using drugs, but is living in an apartment and home where there is drug use happening.
All right, Mr. Entler, any comment on the request that you do a hair follicle test?
No, better come back clean.
Okay. All right, I'm going to order what's called a 12-panel hair follicle test. You can have that done at Columbia Wellness, or there may be some other places, but I know Columbia Wellness will do that. If you could get that done by the end of this week and provide results to Ms. Turnbull.
Well, I'm currently up north right now until Friday.
Okay. When do you come back?
Sometime Friday evening.
Are you going to be here Monday, or do you go back to work on Monday?
No, I'm not working. I'm just helping somebody move their farm back to another farm.
Can you do it by Monday?
More than likely, yeah. If I can get in there and get an appointment.
All right. Let's do that then. So the 12-panel hair follicle test results to Ms. Turnbull. And then Ms. Turnbull, if you could file that with the court under seal, I would appreciate that.
Yes.
All right, it looks like we're going to need another review in this case. Ultimately, I signed an order for adequate cause, and so this case will need to be tried in front of one of the judges in order to look at the parenting plan. What we need to do to get there is put it on the universal trial setting calendar, but I want to make sure that Ms. Turnbull has completed her report and has all the information that she needs before we set it. So I just wanted to give a kind of a view down the future. But it sounds like with the need for the hair follicle test, that we should set another review. So that would be May 10th. And I will do a bench order relating to the hair follicle test. Mr. Antler, any questions at this point?
No.
Okay. Ms. Antler, any questions?
No.
All right, we'll see you back here on May 10th. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. What came up was both parties made a motion to have the county pay the guardian ad litem fee, and they filed financial declarations that, so far as I can tell, does qualify them to have the county pay. So I prepared an order amending the appointment. Let me just write amended on here. That does provide for county pay of the guardian ad litem. Okay.
All right.
Ms. Call, have you had a chance to meet with the parties at all or contact them?
Not yet. We've had contact. They've both returned their questionnaires, their intake forms. I was waiting to move forward more until we had a ruling on this particular issue. So now that I know the answer to that, I'll go ahead and move forward and we'll get things underway. They've both been communicative. They've both returned their paperwork. So I have good reason to think this is going to go well.
Okay. If I set a review on the May 10th, would that be appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. I think there was a request for adequate cause in this case, and I held off on that decision until I got some information from the guardian ad litem. So hopefully by then, or perhaps within another month of that date, I'll be in a position to make a decision. Okay.
I think I can help you out with that.
So we'll strike that hearing. We'll be back here on May 10th.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, Ms. Corey. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I could say before we start, I'm currently in the hospital, but I don't mind proceeding with today's court.
Okay.
I don't know if the Wi-Fi is good.
We can hear you fine right now. So thank you for being here.
Okay.
Mr. Pedro Terrell, have you been attempting to contact a new attorney at this point?
Financially, I can't afford another attorney. I wasted a huge chunk of money to figure out in the first court hearing that it's a conflict of interest and he can't represent me. So unfortunately, that put me back. So I will not. I have been searching and I've got nothing, Your Honor.
All right. Well, this case has been before me a number of times, and the parties need a permanent parenting plan for their child. And that usually is determined after a hearing with one of the judges or judicial officers after an evidentiary hearing. And I think that's where we need to go to at this point. I feel like we're just bouncing down the road, hoping that Mr. Pedro Terra will either get the DV evaluation or start the supervised visits, and those things have not occurred.
Your Honor, I've been doing
let me
supervised
finish my thought here, and then you can comment. And I don't know that coming back to this docket is really going to move things forward. I think we probably need to set it for trial. Mr. Pedro Terrell, go ahead. I'll let you respond.
a couple things. So I have been doing supervised visits, reconnecting families. I've been staying consistently at it. I've made sure I've had those days off so I can go see my son. And then on the, I don't know if it's the domestic or anger evaluation that you guys wanted me to.
Yes.
But I've been trying to reach out months and months on end, and I've came to nothing. And I've also realized that what it's being based off of, the situation that happened off of exit 39 in Cowlitz County, that in the police reports has nothing to do with me. And I feel like this anger evaluation keeps on getting pushed on me, even though I'm not an angry person, nor do I need an anger evaluation, Your Honor. And it's stopping me from being able to have unsupervised with my son. When, in all honesty, that's why I got my attorney, so I could be able to fight for 50-50 so I could see my son more.
Let me hear from Ms. Corey, and then I'll go to Ms. Carricker.
So, Mr. Pedro Terrell, I did find a place in the Portland area that does offer anger management on a sliding scale. It's called Allies in Change. Also, Mr. Pedro Terrell, I had his this court case coming up for Chanel Pedro Terrell, goes to jury trial on May 16th. Last I knew,
Mr. Pedro Terrell, just let Ms. Corey finish.
Last I knew, that there was a bench warrant issued for her for non-appearance. I don't know exactly what happened. That bench warrant was quashed, and now it's set for trial on May 16th. I have great concerns that for unsupervised visits, that Ms. Chanel Pedro Terrell would be present for those, and that this was a really astonishingly shocking road rage issue. And I would like to, at the very least, see that go to trial before allowing any unsupervised visits.
Okay, so you don't want it to go to trial?
Oh, I do.
Oh, you do want it to go to trial?
I would like for it, any unsupervised visits to not happen until after it goes to trial, and for it to be considered that Chanel Pedro Terrell is not present during those visits.
Okay. Ms. Carricker, any comment on, in particular, I guess my thoughts that we should just, at this point, put this on a track to set it for trial?
You ordered in July of last year for Tristan to get his anger management done. That was precisely 9 months ago. We have been pushing it off and moving forward, and we have been going through a lot in this case alone. I love my son to death, and I worry about him constantly. I completely agree with Twyla. I do want it to go to trial, but Tristan said that road rage incident had nothing to do with him, but he openly admitted to getting out of the car and yelling and being involved in it. So the anger management is completely up to you. I do believe we should move forward and go to trial, especially for the sake of our son.
Ms. Corey, were you going to say something?
Yes, I would agree that this definitely needs to go to trial. We need to find a resolution that it will work permanently.
All right. Well,
Honor,
I'm glad Mr. Pedro Terrell is doing the supervised visits, and I'm sorry I indicated you were not. So I'm glad that's happening. We're still, as Ms. Carricker indicated, I had ordered a domestic violence evaluation more than 6 months ago. I've been checking in on this case over the last more than 6 months, and that has not occurred. And I don't know what putting it off longer and checking in with it more times is really going to do to change where we're at. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this on the universal trial setting calendar at 1 p.m. on May 3rd.
Your Honor, are we able to do it in the AM? Because I have multiple appointments that I can't miss that day, Your Honor. That's the only concerns. Are we able to push it out just 1 week?
If that date is a problem, I'm happy to set it on May 10th if you can make it that day.
Yes, Your Honor, I can make it that day.
Okay. So let's set the universal trial setting for May 10th. And nobody has to file anything. My clerk will take care of doing that. All of you should show up at that time, May 10th, and we'll set this for a 1-day trial involving custody and visitation of, I think it's Colton, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then that hearing, just Mr. Pedro Terro, if you're still looking for a lawyer, that hearing, the actual trial will probably not occur for 4 to 6 weeks after that. So you've got about 2 months to contact an attorney if you choose to do so. Otherwise, it'll be just like a trial. You can testify as to your position. Ms. Corey will be there and will testify regarding her conclusions and what she has determined. Okay. All
Your
right.
Honor.
Go ahead.
I've been waiting patiently. If speaking on what Ms. Twyla said, everything that keeps on being brought up with Chanel, the thing that happened with Chanel has nothing to do with this case. I understand that in the police report, it says there was a child's car seat, but it did not specify that there was a child in it. And I have stressed it enough that I did not have Colton at that time, but I feel like we should not have to base it off of that. We should just move forward on going with the trial. And I would appreciate it if we stop bringing up Chanel in this matter, Your Honor. With everything that happened back in March 3rd, with the assault at the daycare, to the stuff that's being brought up and on exit 39, Your Honor.
All right. So all of that, your position that you were not aggressive at this encounter on the freeway, that's something that you can testify to and provide evidence of to the judge at the hearing.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And what a trial gauges that I don't particularly gauge here is the credibility of the witnesses. And what I look at is there a concern where I need to protect the child, at least on a temporary basis? And I found that. But at the trial, the judge will delve deeper into the credibility of the witnesses at that point. Okay. So you certainly are free to make those arguments there. And I would expect that you would. Okay. All right. So May 10th, then at 1 p.m., I'm not going to set another review hearing in this case. And the custody issue and visitation of Colton will be tried sometime after that. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. All of the rulings that I made or orders that I made to this point are going to stay in effect. So we're still going to be having supervised visits up to the trial date. Okay.
Okay. So supervised visits on Tuesdays and Sundays, video visits are still going to be occurring?
Yes.
Okay.
Those orders remain in effect.
All right.
Ms.
Thank
Fellows again. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
We're here on 2 issues, I believe. One is to check in on how the supervised visits are going and just how the contact is going in general. And second is to discuss child support. And Ms. Looney, I think, will address that. Let's first go to how the visits are going. Let me hear from Mr. Kiyoshi first, and then Ms. Vaughn, and then Ms. Fellows.
They've been, can you hear me, Your Honor?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. They've been going good. It's been 5 visits. We weren't able to make 2 because of that trip to Colorado, and then he was sick the week after. So I've seen them. I've got mine, and I did ask them to write the notes on these visits because I would like them. I don't know. I wanted to turn them in. I just wasn't enough time for the hearing, so I have the notes on those. But other than that, the visits have been going great. Other than the 2 that were not able to happen.
Okay, let's just leave it at that. I want to just kind of do a roundtable and hear from everybody. Ms. Vaughn, what's your impression of how the visits are going?
So from what they've said, the in-persons have been going pretty well, except they have been giving me a lot of reports that my son's not eating well and they're not practicing potty training with him, which at home he is potty trained. So that's kind of a concern and a setback for his age. As far as the in-persons go, we did miss 2 of them, one because we were in Colorado, which was excused, and then the next he ended up coming down hand, foot, mouth. As far as the phone visits, though, the first 2 weeks after our last hearing went really well. They were pretty good. And then he did not make the call the next week, the 3rd week. And then there's been 3 since then. And those last 3 have not been as good as they've been in the past. So for example, last week when he called, he asked to call at 5 instead of 6 because he had group. And I said, okay, that's fine. But then the whole 20 minutes that he called, he was filling out paperwork.
All right, Ms. Fellows, any comment on how things are going?
No comment, Your Honor.
Do you have supervised visits now once a week, Mr. Kiyoshi?
I do, Your Honor.
And that's at parents' place?
Yes.
And you live in the Olympia area, is that right?
I do, Your Honor.
Is there another day of the week you'd be able to come down for a visit?
It'd be my weekends, which are Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's when the phone visits go. But other than that, I work 5 days out of the week. So.
And when is your supervised visit now? Is that on a Tuesday?
Tuesdays.
And so your next day off is just the next day, Wednesday?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I do know that Mr. Kiyoshi was scheduled to do a DV evaluation. I believe it was on March 15th. I haven't gotten confirmation that he has done it. I did email Mr. Kiyoshi last week to ask whether or not he had done it. Also, he has not paid his fees in full for the GAL fees. I sent out the email last Thursday and I have not heard back from him. So that was one of the big things that we were kind of waiting for also was the DV evaluation.
Mr. Kiyoshi, any update on that?
Yes, I did do it on the 15th. I have the letter, the appointment letter, which I thought I emailed the picture to Beth Fellows. If you didn't get it, I'll email it again. And they did tell me that because it's a collateral that they would get in contact with Alexandria to talk to her before they started the processing everything. And then it would take 30 to 40 days after talking to her to process everything and then get back to me. And I was waiting for a call from them. So there's not much I can do there.
How long is your supervised visit on Tuesdays?
2 hours.
Okay. I would like to give Mr. Kiyoshi more time with his son. And given the driving situation and the time, I think the best we can do at this point is expand the time from 2 to 3 hours. But I wanted some weigh-in. Ms. Vaughn, does that create any problems for you if we do that?
A little bit. So I believe they only allow visitation on Tuesdays to be between 11 and 1 is what we do now. So that's the 2 hours, but I think they're only open 10 to 1, if I'm not mistaken. And I typically have my weekly therapy appointment from 9 to 10. So it would be, and my son doesn't wake up till 10:30 at like the earliest. So it kind of
all right, I don't want to interfere with that. I was hoping maybe we could go
later.
It's 3
Yeah.
hours, 11
Could
to
I be
2.
okay with going later, but they had told me that the latest they would ever go is 1:30, and that was only in special situations.
I believe that they do parenting classes and things like that. So that's probably what part of their scheduling issue is.
Okay.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yeah, please.
So, so I understand that we are waiting for the DV assessment to get back to see if I can get the unsupervised, or where we go from there. So I mean, if it's not going to work for mom and the parenting place, I'm okay with the 2 hours on Tuesdays. I'm hoping they get this done in the DV assessment process in the next week or so I can just move on to my unsupervised visitations.
Well, and I think you're reading my mind well, which is I'm not going to consider unsupervised until I get that evaluation.
Yes, Your Honor.
But we're probably going to have to go a month out. If let's say they get you the report in 2 weeks, that will need to be provided to Ms. Fellows and Ms. Vaughn to the court for everybody's consideration. So I think we're looking at probably 3 to 4 weeks out that we have to go. Yeah, I think I want to go 4 weeks out. So let's come back on May 10th. The DV evaluation is in. And we'll look at what that indicates and whether we can consider unsupervised visits at that time based on that report.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so now we need to go to child support and Ms. Looney.
Thank you, Your Honor. On this case, the state's interest is only as to the medical coverage for the child. We did provide some proposed child support worksheets simply because by the time we filed them, we hadn't received any income information from either parent. I did check this morning on Odyssey. I did not see any information from Mr. Kiyoshi, but we did receive information from Ms. Vaughn. So we feel that the court would have those to consider. So we wouldn't have a direct interest in the amount of support. We just want to ensure that we have as accurate an order as possible for the percentages for uninsured medical and daycare expenses. And we would be willing to draft that order based on Your Honor's ruling today.
What are you requesting then in terms of a support payment?
According to the information that we had, Your Honor, we used the employment security data that was available for Mr. Kiyoshi for Q4 of 2022. And so based on that, we also imputed Ms. Vaughn at her current wage at full time. So we had a net income for Mr. Kiyoshi of $3,005 and a net income for Ms. Vaughn of $2,323. And the resulting standard payment would be $557. So that's what we had based on the information available to the state. We're just not sure if either parent has different information that Your Honor would prefer to consider as well.
Okay. So, Mr. Kiyoshi, if you have seen the worksheets, your income based on what the state has is $3,491 a month. And then Ms. Vaughn is imputed at $2,642 a month. That results in a payment that would be made to the Department of Child Support of $557 each month. Do you have a comment on that?
Yes. So those aren't. So I just got on to DOC. Those are not. I am making more now, and I have no problem paying to support my son. So if I need to get information in on that, I would do that. She also is now working part-time, which I would like to say she chooses to do. She's got a college education. She can work 40 hours a week if I can work 40 hours a week. And I get it. It's this whole custody thing that we're going through that's kind of impeding us moving forward with that. But those numbers are not correct, if that was your question.
Okay. Ms. Vaughn, you were wanted to say something.
Yes. So I did file my financial declaration as you had asked us to do when you set this hearing. I gave it to them like 2 days after they had mailed me the worksheet they proposed, and the proposal that they made is actually way off. So I do only work 23 hours a week, and that's not by choice. That's the only time I have adequate childcare for our son. And I am paying for that. I'm paying $200 a month for that alone. So that's not taken into consideration in their proposal either. I would have loved to be able to make a proposal that actually fits his income and my income. As he just told you, he's making more than what they wrote, which was my concern since he had started the middle of quarter 4 working and it wasn't a full quarter to account for. But I couldn't do that without having his financial declaration and sealed financial documents to be able to make one that is more suited to our situation. It's not by choice that I'm only working 23 hours. My sister works full time and she's who watches my son for me to work. So I have to work around her schedule. And of course, his visitation and appointments. So it's not that I can work any more than I already am.
Ms. Looney, it sounds like both parties feel there's additional information they'd like to provide to you to consider. So why don't we put the child support over also to May 10th? And then Mr. Kiyoshi, I think you need to provide updated information.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, unfortunately, the state is unavailable on May 10th. So if we address child support, can we set that out to the 17th?
All right, we'll have to then have 2 hearings in a row, unless.
I'm not sure if the parties would be willing to set both.
Unless we move
over.
both hearings. All right, I think just as a matter of judicial economy, that makes sense. So the review on the visits will also be on May 17th now, and the child support will be on May 17th. And both Mr. Kiyoshi and Ms. Vaughn should get to Ms. Looney as soon as you can the updated information that you want her to consider. Okay.
Your Honor, I served her my financial declaration with my pay stubs updated on the 31st of March.
We
and
did have those, Your Honor. That was the information I indicated we had received. It was just, we didn't have anything for Mr. Kiyoshi to be able to verify what his current income was. We were just basing it off the information available to us through employment security data.
Okay. You may want to provide April's wage statement to Ms. Looney at some point, okay? All right, so let me go around. Mr. Kiyoshi, any questions at this point?
No, Your Honor. So from my understanding, alternative counseling has not contacted Miss Alexander yet, right? No. Okay, and then Ms. Looney, I understand you probably sent me paperwork. I got to go through it again, but is there a number I can contact you?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Vaughn, any questions?
I had questions regarding his substance treatment. So at our last hearing, he had switched from weekly groups to monthly groups, and we had discussed him turning in his 2 weekly AANA slips to Miss Fellows so we could make sure that he was being consistent with the history of inconsistency. And as far as I have been made aware, he hasn't turned any into Miss Fellows, and so we really don't know if what he did for substance treatment all of March to now.
All right, I think Ms. Fellows is going to be tracking that. Mr. Kiyoshi, you look like you want to say something, so I'll let you.
Yes, Your Honor. From my understanding, Ms. Beth Fellows actually calls into Northwest Resources to get my updates. There was some time gap from the weeklies to the monthlies, but the counselors were tracking on that, and it was because they were waiting on the UA from me to come in with the readings, and it was negative, and that's when they were able to put me into the monthlies. And I'm up to date with my AA meetings, monthlies. I got 2 more monthly meetings before treatment's done, and she can call my counselor now, and he can verify all that, which she has been doing.
Okay, it sounds like we're going to need to just verify all that also on May 17th. Okay.
And yes, Your Honor, that I have talked to his new counselor since he has gone to monthlies. I talked to him last week, and he did say that the father was scheduled for the first monthly, and he had very strict guidelines on providing the AANA slips, and that he would let Mr. Kiyoshi know. And I will be following up with that, and we'll definitely have updated information for the hearing on May 17th.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you back here on May 17th then. And my note indicates that we were going to get an update on the JL report and where we were at. So, Ms. Turnbull, do you want to address that first?
Sure. So a couple issues. One is Ms. Myers has not participated at all. And I did send her a certified mail back in March requesting her participation no later than March 31st if it was going to be included in my report. And I have received nothing, no response from her. So that's where we stand with Ms. Myers' participation. I have received no payment from her. To my knowledge, she has not filed a financial declaration, so I'm not sure how to move forward with that piece of my payment as well. I do have quite a bit of information from police reports, from CPS, from the tribe, from collateral witnesses that were there during or directly after Hazel's abuse, that I feel like I have enough information to move forward with my report. The one thing that has come up that is concerning to me is that Austin was on March 17th arrested for a DUI, and he has some pending charges, 2 felonies, 4 gross misdemeanors, and 1 misdemeanor. And so we are looking at some charges that may, or some possible jail time. And I do not feel comfortable recommending that little Hazel stay with mom. I don't think that's safe. So we need to have a plan B if Austin can't take care of Hazel. I think that my understanding is that Austin has already had a substance abuse evaluation. Is that correct, Austin? And
yeah.
Is starting treatment. And so I'll be following up on that. But I think that if Austin, needs to be incarcerated, that potentially his mom would be a good caregiver for Hazel in that situation. I also have not received any payment from Mr. Blacklaw.
Ms. Myers, can I talk to you a moment?
Yes, you may.
Do you plan on contacting Ms. Turnbull and
I actually do. Your Honor, it has actually been very hard for me to be able to do anything at this moment in time with my vehicle having massive problems with the engine. So me not being able to find rides due to this whole situation, my family has completely turned their backs on me. I don't have anyone in my corner. The tribe physically can't help me because of the accusations being physically from not only not in Washington anymore, but got moved for the criminal case into Oregon. So my tribe physically cannot help me. My cell phone back in March 28th at exactly 3 o'clock, my phone had fallen out of my pocket when I had jumped into my truck to be able to go to the print station over at Office Max in Longview to be able to print out the paperwork again, to file it again. As of every time that I tried filing it through taking the picture and trying sending it through my Gmail, because it's the only actual contact information that I have right now. Because my phone is down, I am in the process of finding a job as well. I have 2 interviews that I have this coming week. I've had previous interviews that I've been waiting on callbacks for, but the positions always end up filled. I am trying my best. And as of right now, I am trying the damnest to, sorry, excuse my French, to get her the information that she needs. As of right now, I just honestly, I need help. Is there any way that we could meet in person to fill out the paperwork?
I have a suggestion in a moment. Let me ask you one other question. I had allowed telephone visits twice a week. Have those been occurring?
Not really, no. Every time we get the chance to, either the video calling messes up or We're always miscommunicating. I mean, I've been contacting his mother every day for the past week. I have not contacted my kids since then. The last conversation that I had with my daughter was 2 Fridays ago. We have been trying to get through these visitations, but because of Austin's lack of communication with his mother due to the daycare situation and the jobs, working 2 separate jobs and whatnot, they're having problems with their own transportation. So I was just honestly under the impression that he's just not willing to do it, to be honest.
Your Honor, I have a different perspective from speaking with Austin's mom on how that's going.
Okay. Here's my thought. We're all here right now. I can place Ms. Turnbull and Ms. Myers in what's called a breakout room, and you can have a conversation right now. Ms. Myers, would that work for you?
That would be honestly the best bet, because as of right now, I have no way of being able to drive. I do not have a license, so I physically cannot drive my truck.
All right.
So if I were to drive my truck, this is just kind of pointless. I don't have help, and so this would honestly be our best bet.
If I set this for May 3rd, Ms. Turnbull, do you think you'd be able to have your report completed by then?
Yes. Yeah, yes.
That would be 3 weeks. If you need more time, we could go more time.
Okay.
If May 3rd works.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that it may be more appropriate for Ms. Myers to have supervised visitation. I think that it would be helpful to have the feedback from the supervisor. And I think that Ms. Blacklaw, Austin's mom, who has been trying to reach her, I think that originally there was some miscommunication about how to set up the visits, but because they did not have a set time and day. So that was confusing. And when I gave them that Ms. Blacklaw that feedback, she has been trying to do that and will, according to Ms. Blacklaw, is trying to say, I'm available at this day, this time. And Ms. Myers is not following through with that contact. Ms. Blacklaw lives 40 minutes away from Hazel. She hasn't said so, but it's clear to me it's becoming a burden. It's not, day after day, Ms. Myers is not following through with that contact.
Okay. I'm not going to order supervised visits at this point. I want to hear your report or read your report. I also want you to meet with Ms. Myers first.
Okay.
So, so the parties know we'll be back here on this case on May 3rd to look at the guardian ad litem report and make any additional decisions. And then Ms. Myers, I'm going to place you and Ms. Turnbull in a separate room. It'll just be the 2 of you, and you can have a conversation. And I encourage you to cooperate to the fullest extent, because that's what's going to be helpful to you and the court. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just give me a moment to put that together. All right, Mr. Blacklaw, you're free to leave, and we'll see you back here on May 3rd. Okay.
And one more question: is there any way I can file my taxes with her? That be later time, May 3rd, maybe.
Yeah, I guess we can address that May 3rd. I know it's after the date, but we can address that on May 3rd. Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
I have a couple questions.
Thank you for your time,
Mr. Utter, have you been making
Have a good
the
day.
child support payments?
I have.
Okay. And have you met with Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Additionally?
Yeah, I met with him as well.
All right. Have you seen your son at all since the last time we talked?
No, I've reached out. I tried to throw a birthday party for him, as well as even tell him happy birthday, and I haven't even been able to do that.
Ms. Young, any comment from you at this point?
Nothing right now.
All right. So you live fairly close to each other, right?
Correct.
All right.
I did have one suggestion, and I didn't know if this would be a good idea of trying to do, I don't know if we could do video, but at least calling Parker, trying to build that foundation, I don't know what his schedule's like, maybe a evening time call, or again, I don't know his schedule. Because they've never had one-on-one. So I think this would kind of, to hear about his day at school, or he does horse riding lessons and hearing about that. I don't know how he feels about that, but.
Mr. Utter, any response to that?
Yeah, please. So I actually have Parker's phone number and I reach out to him quite often. Like I said, I just reached out, tell him happy birthday last week. Any chance I get with him, I have had one-on-one time with him. Keith had told me Parker actually wanted more one-on-one time with me. And I was trying to,
So when you say you reach out to Parker, does that mean you and him talk?
No, his phone is blocked from my number, or I don't know if it's blocked.
Parker doesn't have a cell phone. He had an old iPhone and it doesn't work.
Okay, this is news to me, Your Honor.
I'm okay with, Parker's
I've offered to.
Let Ms. Young speak first. Okay, go ahead.
I'm more than, if for the time being, since he doesn't have a phone, I'm more than willing. Parker can use my phone. I don't know if we could do video. I don't know how that works, but to have conversation, whatever, just to start building that foundation, I think is important. So if that helps, then I'm more than willing.
Mr. Utter, that is typically the first step in reuniting a parent with a child who haven't seen each other for a while.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a reasonable suggestion.
I agree.
So let's
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I do agree with that 100%, and I'm all for any chance I have to talk with him. But this isn't a new thing. This is something I've been asking for the last year, over a year now, and I've reached out to her. I even asked her through her phone to talk with him. So I do agree, and I do appreciate the fact that she's willing to do this now, but this isn't a new thing or anything that I haven't asked in the past.
Okay. Well, we're here now under somewhat controlled conditions.
Sure, absolutely.
Where you're going to need to come back and talk to me about how things are going. And if there's any concerns, then I can intervene. And that probably didn't exist before and created uncertainty. So here's what I'd like to have happen. Starting the week of April 17th, I'd like 2 weeks where Mr. Utter makes one telephone call a week to Parker.
Okay.
And chats with him about school, his friends, whatever you want to talk about. The weeks of May 1st and May 8th, I'd like there to be 2 telephone calls a week. And I'm going to let the parties figure out when those will be. I'm going to hope that you both can work together to find a convenient time for everybody.
Okay.
And then I'd like everybody back here on May 17th to further discuss the case. And what I see in the immediate future is again, this would have to be with Mr. Lawrence's agreement. I'd like to provide after May 17th some hours during the week where Parker and Mr. Utter get together.
Okay.
And let that go on for a while. And then, I think it's going to be 2 or more months before I or Mr. Lawrence would be comfortable with overnight visits. But starting sometime late May, I would like to see Parker and Mr. Utter spend some time together.
Fantastic, Your Honor.
And then that will ramp up over time for more and more time as hopefully Parker is more comfortable with that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we're all moving in the right direction here. And the child support payments, I want those to continue during this time, at least to the 17th. Okay.
Okay. Your Honor, I have another thing I would like to talk about here if you're okay with.
Okay, go ahead.
So during my visit with Keith, he had suggested counseling where Parker may go. Okay, so the name of it is Charlotte Rosen Counseling Services, you know, if you're familiar.
Well, and so he's suggesting reunification counseling.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I reached out to them and talked to her, or we did. And my insurance is covered there. She didn't. I don't know what insurance Parker has, whether it's state or not. She said if he does have state, it is not covered there unless we are together. If that's the case, I would like to try to get him on my insurance, which I've asked Kirby several times over this past year to get him on my insurance, so that I don't have to pay out of pocket for such things. And my insurance, honestly, is some of the best around or in the town. I'm a longshoreman, and Charlotte also had said, you know, I don't understand why he wouldn't be on your insurance because of that reason. You have some of the insurance in town. So I just wanted to get that with you. I called to try to get it set up. I don't know if Kirby has. I reached out to her to let her know what Keith had said, and, you know, yeah, that's it there. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
My thoughts are, I'd like to see how the telephone calls go.
Okay.
Those go well. And because you live relatively close, I can envision where Parker can go over to your house for, you know, starting a couple hours and then maybe going to 4 hours.
Absolutely,
without
love it.
needing reunification counseling. But I think I need to wait and hear from Mr. Lawrence, and unfortunately, he's not able to log on right now on that. So let's. I'll make a note with the clerk here that we'll address the insurance issue when we get back together on the 17th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, I hope the telephone calls go well, and I look forward to meeting with both of you. My clerk is speaking to me in a minute, just a moment. Thank you. All right, I think I need to address one issue, which is Mr. Mills has filed a notice of disqualification against me after the last hearing. And that doesn't exclude me at this point for two reasons. One is a notice of disqualification needs to be filed before a judicial officer makes a discretionary decision. And I did make discretionary decisions on March 22nd, and the morning of March 29th, the disqualification was filed at 4:30 on March 29th. Secondly, I'm a court commissioner, and the notice of disqualification doesn't apply to commissioners. What Mr. Mills can do at any point, although you have to do it within 10 days of a decision, is you can ask one of the judges or make a motion for a revision, again, within 10 days of a decision. And then one of the judges can review what I've done and determine if I made the right decision. So those are the options that are available for right now. I'm going to remain involved in this case. We're here today for a review by the guardian ad litem. I think it's a preliminary review. Let me hear from Ms. Day, and then I'll go to Ms. Mills and then Mr. Mills for any comments.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
I have had an opportunity to meet with both the parents and do their home visits. I've talked with Ms. Mills' new partner, and I've also talked with the visit supervisor. And so I think things are going along fairly well. In the previous hearing, you had addressed the fees for Ms. Mills, which will be county paid. Mr. Mills has made payment arrangements with me, and so I think that is moving along as appropriately as it could. My recommendation at this time would be to go ahead and move forward with visitation unsupervised under the same one overnight on the weekend as it currently is, but it does not need to be supervised. The visits are going well. There's no outward concerns that I can find. There are lots of allegations in this case, but nothing that I'm able to substantiate that is anything more significant than what we typically see when parties end a long relationship and children are involved. There's no harm to these children. The father's engaged. He's been actively involved. I've been to his home. The home is safe and appropriate. And the visit supervisor expressed no concerns about father having overnights unsupervised. So that would be my request at this point in time, and then I will continue to move forward and hopefully complete my report within the next probably 40 to 60 days at the most.
Ms. Mills, any comment?
Well, I had a few notes for today. The unsupervised is very concerning to me still, even just from, 7 years I've been with this man. I had spoken to Angela, the supervisor, and she said that Sam is so angry. She no longer wants to be the supervisor. And I was going to bring that up at the next hearing, but I figured today wouldn't hurt to bring it up. She said she has no relationship with him, no conversations outside of the visitation. And I don't really feel like they were really being supervised at her house. She has quite a big property. And I believe most of the time was spent at the back end of the property or away from Angela really supervising aside from meal times. So that's my concern.
All right, thank you.
I also
overnight visits right now are Friday night to Saturday, right?
Yeah. I also would love to see him in anger management. I had spoken to Tina Day about DV counseling, which I think is so important for Samuel moving forward and, future relationships that will involve my children, and a parenting class. I think those things are all very necessary for him.
All right, Mr. Mills, any response?
Yeah, I have no idea what she's talking about. I do believe that she isn't after the best interest of the children. Her intent is to make my life as hard as possible. I'm not an angry person. We had a bad relationship. She pushed my buttons, I pushed hers, and it was not a good relationship. But I don't know what she's talking about with anger and my sister. I'm never angry towards my sister. I'm always very friendly and civil with my sister. I do have a relationship with my sister. I have no idea where she's getting this from. And Rebecca's goal in all this is just to make sure that she can take as much from me as possible, including my children. Like, she's walked away, taken my kids, and she's hoping to leave me with all the debt. She wants me to pay for the car, pay for the insurance, pay for child support. She moved in with her new boyfriend and she doesn't work. There's no reason she can't work. She filed for welfare. And then I have the welfare office coming after me for child support when we had decided to hold off until custody was determined. She is just doing everything in her power to make sure that I'm miserable, regardless of how it affects the children. My supervised visits with the kids and even the phone calls, my kids ask me when they can come home. Every time I'm with my kids, my 3-year-old never leaves my side, and he constantly says, I love you, I love you. And he was sitting on my lap for 30 minutes and just kept saying, you're my daddy, you're my daddy. They love me. They are of no harm. I don't know why she's doing this. It just seems like her only goal in this is vengeance and just destroying my life, regardless of how it affects our children. And as Tina Day discussed with me, is she would attempt to get Rebecca to sign an agreement where I could pick my kids up Friday evening and keep them through Sunday, and then have one night a week during the week to have my kids in the evening, which I want my kids full time, but that's worlds better than these supervised visits. And I want an equal opportunity to prove myself that I can raise my children. And I feel like I've been denied that. I have filed my response. I refiled my response to her harassment report showing her behaviors towards me. Me and her had agreed to be civil. And then once she finally got moved into her new boyfriend's, that's when she went from being civil with me, which she wasn't even being civil with me. She was messaging me almost daily, telling me every time they had sex, describing it. When she would come over to the house, she would tell me the sexual acts they were doing. And she had sent me pictures of her naked in his bed saying, oh, we just had sex and we're having sex again tonight when he comes home. I have filed this evidence.
Okay, thank you. I've looked at this case a bit before the hearing today. I made some decisions early on for supervised visits until I could get some feedback from the guardian ad litem. And that was based on what were concerning texts from Mr. Mills to Ms. Mills. But even prior to hearing from the guardian ad litem today, it was clear to me that while Mr. Mills and Ms. Mills were having certain difficulties in their relationship, it does not appear that spills over into either of their relationships with the two boys. And that's confirmed today now by the guardian ad litem saying that it would be appropriate to go to unsupervised visits. The schedule that Mr. Mills indicated may be one that works down the road in the near future. But for right now, I would like to have unsupervised visits. So that would be from Friday the 14th to Saturday the 15th. I believe at 6 o'clock when it ends. And then Friday the 21st to Saturday the 22nd, Friday the 28th to Saturday the 29th. And then we will get together again on May 3rd to address a number of financial and other issues. And one of those issues will be, how are those unsupervised visits going? And should it go from Friday to Sunday? And should there be a midweek visit? And everybody can weigh in on that. But for right now, I'm going to order that the current visitation that was supervised just now can be unsupervised and can be at Mr. Mills' house. Okay.
Your Honor, can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
The only reason it was Friday and Saturday was because of my sister's church schedule. Saturday and Sunday would be more ideal for me.
Okay. Ms. Mills, any comment on moving it to Saturday to Sunday?
No, I do think that it will be kind of a shock to go from every other weekend now to every single weekend.
I think I'd like to do that, though. I think Mr. Mills has spent some time away from his sons, and I think for the next 3 weeks anyway, I'd like to see that. It will be adjusted. I suspect I'm going to make some adjustments on May 3rd, but for the next 3 weeks, I'd like to see every weekend. So Saturday, the beginning time should be, let's say 10 o'clock to Sunday at 6. That will then be Saturday, Sunday for the next 3 weeks. And long term, I don't intend to take the children away from you every weekend, Ms. Mills. I don't think that's appropriate, but I do want Mr. Mills to see them this month. Go ahead.
Can I add? Are we just not going to address anger management, DV counseling? I mean, testing for this. You have seen
that will be addressed by Ms. Day.
I've provided my evidence.
That's her report.
I'm so concerned. I don't feel good about this in the least.
I understand that, but again, Ms. Day is saying
he's left needles on the floor, Your Honor.
And
the bathroom that my children use.
What I see is that you and Mr. Mills have had a difficult relationship, but I don't think that spills over into either of your relationships with your sons. So,
and I will address those things in my report, Your Honor. Absolutely.
The next 3 weeks, Saturday to Sunday, will be unsupervised with Mr. Mills. Okay. All right.
Your Honor, I just have some things I need to bring up, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't like going through her new boyfriend to talk to my children. I don't think that is right. He's not their father. I'm their father.
and I'm okay with a parenting app. I just don't want to go through her boyfriend.
And I would agree, Your Honor, it's more appropriate for them to use like something like Our Family Wizard or some other type of a parenting app when they need to communicate about the children. They should not be really communicating about the other things, and obviously the harassing or inappropriate texting should not be occurring, but it shouldn't be required for him to discuss decisions about the children with mother's newest boyfriend.
Everything is run by me. He's not responding to these on his own. I'm telling him what to say and he's reading the text to me. I would prefer no contact between the two of us, even on an app.
I'm going to leave Robert in place as the person to communicate through until we get to May 3rd, which is our next date together. And then I'll address that in, we'll look at how things are going at that point. Okay.
I have just one last thing, Your Honor, that is affecting my current life.
Okay, go ahead.
She still has my Kia, which her boyfriend just bought a new car for her, and the bank restricted my account on Monday because of the delinquent payments. And I need her to make those payments or give the car back.
Ms. Mills, any response?
He's my boyfriend. He bought a vehicle. That's not my vehicle.
Well, it seems to me we have to have one or the other. If you want to keep the Kia, you've got to make the payments.
It's sitting in her lot and she drives the new car.
I thought that we were waiting for financials to hear back on the Kia, was my understanding.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
At the last hearing, I was told that we were waiting on financial information from Samuel Mills to make a decision on the Kia.
I have filed those, Your Honor.
He has always paid for it. I think that he should provide a vehicle for his children. He always has.
The point of this is it's not being used. She has a new vehicle provided to her. And it is affecting my ability to live. I couldn't access my debit card and I had to call the bank and get that restriction lifted. But that's only a temporary lift. I cannot afford that car. If she would like to hang on to that car, I need her to pay for it.
Okay. My recollection is we were going to handle this on May 3rd when we got together and dealt with all of the financial issues. So I think I'm going to have to put this over to then. Thank you for bringing it up now. But I'm going to have to make the decision on it on May 3rd. And that will be one of the issues we determine. All right. Anything else? Doesn't sound like it. All right.
Thank you, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Bennett was
We'll
present
see you
at his
back
last
here in
review
about
on March 8th. He does currently still have a PD and wage withholding in place. He is paid in full for the month of March for his purge amount of $500. And we are requesting to set his next review also for May 17th.
All right, Mr. Bentlev, thank you for the payment. And looks like you are also coming back on May 17th.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because I thought it was like 6 months paid in full and then you're taken off and I'm 7 months paid in full now.
I can clarify that, Your Honor. Mr. Angelica did inquire about that. There are some orders that have a required set amount of months before we would consider to discontinue reviews. Mr. Bentlev does not have an order like that. His order is ongoing. So at this point, the state is not asking to discontinue his reviews based on the fact that he has a pay or go to jail order for his failure to comply in the past, as well as the fact that he has a large amount of arrears.
And I think there was some consideration that if in the future, if he shows a longer period of consistent payments, that could be readdressed, I believe.
The state would be willing to discontinue reviews after a longer period of consistency, Your Honor.
And so we're not going to discontinue payments at this time, but that's without prejudice for you or your attorney to make a motion sometime in the future. But I think we may need to anticipate going about 6 more months, and then we may look at that. Okay. So we'll see you back here on May 17th.
Excuse me.
All
Mr.
right.
Stimson
Thank
was
you.
present for his last review on March 8th. He did have a partial payment post for the month of March of $288.80. According to our communications with the support enforcement officer on this case, he did change jobs. He does have a new wage withholding in place for his current employment, but he was not paid in full for the month of March at this time. We're just requesting to set his next review for May 17th. And if he does change jobs again, we ask that he notify us within the 72 hours that's required by his contempt order. And if he's unable to pay in full for the month of April, that we would have him do a job search log so that we can see what work he has been doing.
Okay. Mr. Angelico, anything to add?
No, Your Honor, this was one, unfortunately, with this change in jobs where they just posted a partial payment. This was the case where he had made enough payments, I think, to potentially discontinue review if he had been paid in full in March. So I'm not sure how that would affect that in the future if he's changed jobs. And Joe, currently where are you working for our benefit? Who is your current employer?
I work for American Workforce Group, and they've been taking $130, $140 a week out of my paycheck.
And how long have you
since
worked?
I started?
How long have you worked for them?
I started working for them 16th of March, and they've been taking out $150 a week, according to my pay stub right here. So there should be a reason why I'm not paid full in March.
There were two payments made in March on the 24th and the 30th. They did not total $650, which is Mr. Stimson's purge. Mr. Stimson has been a part of this contempt docket for a considerable amount of time. He understands that if he doesn't have a wage withholding in place, that he is very capable and able to make those payments in full on his own without the wage withholding being in place. The state is not going to consider that paid in full, and we are restarting the required 6 months consecutive payments because that is what his order requires.
It paid $438.79 in the month of March.
Do you know where the wage withholding, where the payments came from? The 2 payments in March came from? 2 payments posted came from?
They do not give me the specific employer. They just tell me they are an employer's wage withholding. Additionally, Your Honor, his payment was reduced in February as well. So there's 2 months that he was not paid in full. The state's not willing to count that as in February either. He had a payment that was less than $10. So his full payment was not quite $400 for February. When he was leaving his previous employer, that was the amount that they posted.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue reviews. Mr. Stimson, your next review date is May 17th. And if you're for some reason changing jobs again, then the state's going to want a job work log to show what dates you worked during that month. And we will see you back here on May 17th.
We would mention for the record, Your Honor, and I guess Mr. Stimson logged off, but in the prior review period, when the prosecutor is mentioning February, Your Honor, I show on my notes that he appeared at the hearing and he was paid in full for February 5 consecutive months. So was there a shortage in February?
There was. I was in communication with the state about that with DCS. It had showed that he had posted a full payment, and then because he was leaving that employer, that full amount was not actually posted to his account. It was a reduced amount from the typical $308 to $984, which was the amount remaining on his final paycheck that they could withhold.
Okay, thank you.
That happened after the hearing, so I wasn't able to get that update until today. Mr. Cheney was present at his last review on March 8th.
All right. Thank you.
He has not posted a payment for the month of March, and we did not receive any information that he had completed any of the alternate purge conditions that were ordered at the time, which were a job search and work log, the work source applications and work source resumes and cover letters, online workshops. So the state is requesting that those 3 be reordered today, and that we add to that the job search strategies through WorkSource Online. The next 2 dates for that would be April 19th or April 26th. And we would request that his next review also be on May 17th.
In Mr. Cheney's position, Your Honor, we were just notified by Mr. Cheney, and I do have the information for the prosecutor, but he is now currently employed part-time with Ross. And I have their address, their local address here is 620 Triangle Shopping Center, Longview.
Would that be the correct place to contact regarding a wage withholding, or is there a corporate office that needs to be contacted?
He was not sure. He was just able to provide the local office. He can check with the employer to see if there's a different address to send it to. But he became employed, I believe, toward the last part of March. He has not received, I don't believe, a paycheck. He is going to be in kind of loss prevention, security loss prevention. He's only working part-time. Currently, he's training. He's hoping that his hours will go up, but he does feel that that he would be earning enough to deduct the $200 in child support that would be due for the purge amount.
And what is his hourly wage and the frequency of his payments? Is he getting paid every week?
He's currently earning, I think, $16 and was it 32 cents, $16.30, Brandon?
Yeah, something around there.
And how often do they pay?
Every 2 weeks, bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly, okay.
Yep.
And if you could ask the employer, Brandon, they just need the address that they would send a payroll deduction notice to.
Okay, so kind of like the Walmart and like Bentonville and stuff.
Yeah, they probably have a central place for Ross that generates paychecks. So you can just ask the local store if they have that address and provide it to me, and I'll forward it.
I wasn't informed on that, but I will ask my manager. I work tomorrow's my next shift, so I'll talk to her tomorrow about it.
And he did have a phone number for the employer too, if the prosecutor wants the phone number.
We can find that. That's fine.
Okay.
Ms. Looney, what was the last purge condition that you mentioned you had added a seminar?
We would be requesting the job search strategies. But it would be an online only, and the next available dates would be the 19th or the 26th of April.
Okay.
And his purge amount is $200. So if he's able to make those payments, we would want to make it clear that he is capable to do that before his wage withholding is in place, and he's very much encouraged to do so. That Mr. Angelico does have the list of the different ways he can make those payments.
Yeah, I usually I usually pay on the TouchPay app.
He's paid he's paid with the source he's used, so I think he can just go back to using that source.
Yeah, I still have it downloaded and everything, so I should have no problem. I'm not sure what my first paycheck's going to be, but I mean, I should at least be able to pay the $200.
Okay. All right, Mr. Cheney, congratulations on the job.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be back to work.
I bet. Your purge amount is $200. If you're not able to pay that for April, then we need to see a job work log showing all of the hours that you worked. And I'm going to order that you do the job search strategies seminar. The state has asked that you repeat the seminars you've just done. I may order that in the future if there's no payment, but I'm not going to do it this month. And again, if you make the payment of $200, then you don't have to do any of the purge conditions. Okay.
So it would be job log and job search and work log and the job search strategies.
Job search strategies, which is those April dates. Okay. All right. Again, good luck, Mr. Cheney.
Thank you.